So the data availability layer is a way to hold the L2 operators accountable. Their contract on L1 says no data on L1 is valid until it has been underwritten and as available by the data availability layer. And therefore, we know that the operator cannot do these data withholding attacks. They cannot hold your assets hostage.
What's up, Beta Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. My name's Fareed. As a part of today's video, we're going to be talking and doing a deep dive into the Sky protocol, a data availability layer building using Cardano technology. Now, I'm going to be joined by their founder, Fare. Without any further ado, let me bring up today's guest. Fare, welcome aboard. Good morning.
Good morning, Farid. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So, Sky Protocol has just come on my radar. There's been ongoing conversations about layer 2s and scaling on Cardano, and I think this fits just right on into that mix. So, as we get ready to kick things off, I'd like to maybe start off by getting a little bit of your background to understand exactly how you're qualified to be building something like the Sky Protocol. So, if you could maybe just kick us off with that, I'll follow up with a few other questions.
Okay, so I've been trained as a researcher in programming languages and distributed systems. I've worked for many years in the industry, including quite a few at Google. And then at some point, I moved out of big companies and decided to go on my own. Have been working in crypto since 2017 full time. I've built the Glow language, reported it for Cardano. Cardano was my first client. And we've been building lots of technologies in the space for quite a while. And actually, the idea that behind Sky Protocol, it's a project I worked back then in 2018. And at the time, I didn't find funding and didn't want to go into these kind of things. But since then, there have been plenty of other layer 2s that have followed the same principle. And they decided, you know what, I've had this idea before they did it. I know a few things they don't. I can already see a few potential security problems with their designs. So let's do our thing and do it better and do something safer. And what better place to start it than Cardano? Cardano does not yet have a data availability solution. So whereas other networks are already crowded. So let's do it on Cardano. And Cardano has lots of potential, can do things that others cannot. So I'm very excited to work on Cardano for Sky Protocol and its data availability layer.
Very nice introduction there. For anybody who just maybe isn't aware, do you mind explaining what a data availability layer is?
So back in 2016 or 17, there was a paper called the Plasma paper that explained how you can do a sidechain that is fully validated on the main chain, where the contract on the main chain ensures that the operator of the sidechain cannot do anything bad. But there was a small flaw in the paper, or small issue that was remaining, something called data withholding attacks, where the sidechain operator does not publish the data of the sidechain, and therefore, depending on how the sidechain is already validated, at least he can stop the chain and hold all the assets hostage. If we are using interactive proofs, he can even actually elope with the money. He can pull the rug. So the question is, how do you prevent those data withholding attacks? Well, you need something called a data availability engine. The obvious solutions that have been used for a few years on the Ethereum side is what they call a rollup, where all the data is going to be published on the layer 1. And it's still cheaper than doing all the transactions on the layer 1 itself, but it's still very expensive because publishing data on the layer 1 is expensive. So all these rollups, the term was invented by Vitalik Buterin, work, but they can only scale so much. They can scale maybe a factor 10 or 30 or something like that compared to the main chain. But there's a limit they reach, and then you can go faster. With a dedicated data availability engine, you could have lots and lots of shards. Each shard could be already 100 times faster than the main chain, but since you could have 100 shards or thousands of shards, as many as there is demand, actually, you could scale with the demand, basically. So there would be no more technical limit to how much decentralized applications can scale, only an economic limit. At some point, people just don't want decentralization, and that's fine. But as long as people want this decentralization, we will be able to scale. Oh, we want to put all the data, like I've heard of applications that had millions of transactions per second. Well, yes, you could put them on chain if you wanted, thanks to data availability layers.
Got it. So I'm thinking from a project's perspective, right? Let's say I'm a builder here on Cardano. How can I benefit from the data availability layer? Let's say I've already built a protocol, which is
Yep.
currently live right now on just the traditional Cardano layer one. Sky protocol comes about. How can I benefit from my existing architecture, from my existing project, from what you guys are able to provide?
So there will be two ways to do it. The first way is if you don't want to do anything and you have something that just works out, you're not using something like a roll-up strategy or just doing directly a contract. Well, you will be able to do the same contract, but on the side chain that runs that itself runs with Sky protocol. So we'll be able to make side chains. The side chains will be just like Cardano, but it will be much faster. And then you can run your project on the side chain. So you can benefit from the increased scalability. Another thing is if you already have a project that uses some kind of roll-up strategy or a project that has a high throughput and you're already looking for strategies to do it on Cardano, well, instead of doing a roll-up, you can use directly the Sky protocol to publish your data, at which point it will be a much cheaper alternative to a roll-up. So depending on the shape of your project, you can either use a sidechain that runs on Sky protocol or directly build your sidechain directly on Sky protocol.
Got it. Yeah. Very interesting use case. I've had Phil from Anastasia Labs and George are actually building a platform called Midgard, which aims to be
Yes,
an optimistic roll-up layer 2 built on
exactly.
Cardano. And so it sounds like, again, in a very sort of similar approach, you can do whatever you
Yes,
want to do on the Sky protocol layer 2, and have that be verified on the layer 1, very similarly to how ZK rollups and optimistic rollups, you perform operations on the layer 2, and then those are quote unquote rolled up and then validated in a bunch on the layer 1.
exactly.
Perfect. Let's speak a
But
little bit more. Go ahead.
so we're actually talking to people at Midgard, and the idea that you would have two versions of Midgard. One that is slightly safer, but also more expensive and slower, that uses a roll-up strategy, and another one that would be cheaper and has a more throughput that would be using the data availability layer. So you would have two versions or n versions of Midgard.
Now,
That's the idea.
does the data availability layer, does that live on its own? I'm trying to understand its relationship between that and the L2, because it sounds like they're two separate things. Could you clarify?
So the data availability layer is a way to hold the L2 operators accountable. Their contract on L1 says no data on L1 is valid until it has been underwritten and as available by the data availability layer. And therefore, we know that the operator cannot do this data withholding attacks. They cannot hold your assets hostage. They cannot elope. They cannot pull a rug. So basically, the L2 operators commit themselves to publishing the data on the data availability layer to prove that they're going to be honest and that contract to a rug pull. And then you pay, they pay the small fee, the operators pay a small fee to publish a block on the data availability layer. The data availability layer makes sure that all the watchers, all the people who want to watch the chain, ensure that don't do anything wrong and can still interact with it, have seen the data. The data remains live for a few hours, days, or weeks, and then it goes away. That is, we assume that people who need to see the data have seen the data after some timeout, some adjustable timeout.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it almost acts as an extra layer of security or an extra
Yes,
layer of verification, right? Where it sounds to me again that whatever's happening on layer twos has to be published on the DAL or the data availability layer. Therefore, adding an opportunity for the layer one to say, hey, I don't validate this transaction unless I see it on the data availability layer. Very
exactly.
interesting, very interesting. Now, I want to quickly
Uh,
ask.
One
Mhm.
important thing is that the security provided by this data availability layer can be shared between a lot and lot of sidechains. So you could have Midgard using it and another operator, another chain, and another chain, another chain. All the chains can share the security, the common pool their resources for the security of the data availability layer. And once the data availability layer is there and the contract is there, your funds are not in the custody of the operator anymore. The operator cannot rug pull, he cannot stop, and therefore even the operator might still be centralized. Actually, he cannot take your money away. So you can at any time recover your money from the sidechain. And that means that the side, even a centralized sidechain can go very fast and still guarantee that your funds will be safe in their management, but not their custody. If you
Got
want.
it. Yeah, that's pretty impressive to hear. And I really like what you mentioned about multiple side chains being able to publish directly to the data availability layer, making it that much more, um, what is the word that I'm looking for here? Inclusive, for lack of better terms, right? Because now it's like, hey, we've got one data availability layer, but that may be servicing 5 or 6 different side chains or layer twos that operate on Cardano.
Yes.
Okay, Fari, I think let's talk a little bit more about just the timeline. This sounds like a pretty daunting task. Where are you guys right now in terms of development and progress, and when could we see something like this launch on the mainnet?
So we're planning to launch a testnet this year, and for that we are raising money this summer, actually in a pre-sale. And then after the testnet is up, probably later this year or early next year, we will do a bigger sale. So this time to go to mainnet, and we'll do our last token sale just after mainnet to make it decentralized. So right now we're building the testnet. We have a white paper, and we're raising money to build our testnet. And after the testnet, we will raise more money to build the mainnet, and after the mainnet, we'll raise more money to launch the mainnet and to keep it operating.
Thank you. The next question, I believe, is just about the tokens, tokenomics.
Mm,
Obviously, Cardano as the core layer one has its own token, which is ADA. With something like Sky Protocol, I think there's two routes, right? You guys will have your own L2 and
mm,
you have your own data availability layer. Now, as we discussed earlier, the data availability layer could be inclusive of other layer twos as well.
mm.
But it sounds like between that and the Sky Protocol, there's two offerings. So can you clarify, will Sky Protocol have its own token? But then also, will the data availability layer have its own token or need a token?
So yes. So right, the current plan is to have a token that is used by the proof of stake mechanism to both decide who is going to be the members of the committees of each what we call topic. So data will be divided in a lot of topics that can be processed in parallel. So the idea is that everything can be done in parallel, and it can scale. Whereas a lot of things in blockchain work have to work sequentially. That's why it's intrinsically slow. With the Sky protocol, we can do a lot of things in parallel. That's why it scales. And so at every time slot, every topic will have its own committee, and this committee will be decided pseudo-randomly based on the proof of stake. So there is a proof of stake. For this proof of stake, we have our own token, and the same token will be used to pay the fees. And it has to be accounted in a common token because we want to make sure that there's no cheating between committee members where one claims to not have been paid so that you can pocket the whole thing or things like that. So
Got it. Got it. No, thank you for that quick answer. The next thing I want to jump into very briefly is who's helping you to build the Sky protocol, right? So I've met Goche, I've met yourself, I've not met Alexander, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about the team and your guys' experience when it comes to building things such as complex as this.
So we've been together since 2019, and we founded Mutual Knowledge Systems, the company. Actually, the company is named after the technology that is behind Sky Protocol. The mutual knowledge in epistemic logic and game theory is the information that everyone knows, everyone in the system knows. And that's by contrast with something called common knowledge, which is what everyone knows, that everyone knows, that everyone knows, that everyone knows, etc., which is basically what consensus does. And so consensus obviously includes mutual knowledge, common knowledge. Before you can agree on something, you must know that thing. So, but the knowing that thing can be done in totally parallel way, independently. Everyone can learn the thing independently. You don't have to know whether the other one know it or not. So it's much easier to achieve this mutual knowledge in parallel when the common knowledge, which is the agreement, has to be done in a essential, sequential and public way. So we've been working, once again, we invented the Glow language. The Glow language has been ported to Cardano in 2020. We worked on state channel. We worked on formal methods to prove the correctness of contracts. We've worked on state channel. What else? We've fixed security problems in Harmony 1. We've also developed a technology called Avoom that allows chains such as Cardano that have UTXOs to also have a more account view at the same time. So we can have the best of both worlds of UTXOs and accounts. So we invented a lot of technologies, and we've worked with a lot of blockchains to build such technologies. And today we're building our own. So
yeah. I was not aware of the fact that you guys helped to build Glow. I'm going to have to familiarize myself with that a little bit more, but I know at any protocol or just any level, building out a language takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and a lot of knowledge. So obviously the experience is there, and you guys are now expanding to build something like the Sky protocol. Now you guys are starting off in Cardano. Do you guys have plans to go multi-chain? Could you guys deploy the DAL or the data availability layer on other ecosystems as well?
Yes. So it will take relatively minor changes to adapt the data availability layer to other chains. So you would have to make sure we use the same cryptographic primitive that the other chain uses, and then you'll have to adapt the smart contract library to use the language and whatever of the other ecosystem. So it's possible, and we're planning to do that. We don't know yet if we will do that by expanding the current token and its user base, or creating other tokens, or creating other tokens and doing a merge and acquisition, or adopting some. There are plenty of ways that could be done. So we haven't decided how that will be done, but that's definitely in the cards, something we plan to do. But for now, for this year, we're going to focus on Cardano.
Perfect. Now, I just saw you guys have recently released your white paper. Is there anything in there that sort of stands out that you maybe want to highlight for anybody who's interested in checking it out?
Actually, I'm working on the next version of the white paper. And in the next version of the white paper, I notably analyze something called data availability sampling, which is what other data availability layers do, which I think comes too late in those layers. What you want is do that, but earlier. You want that's not something the light client should do. That's something the other nodes should do to verify that each other are honest and keep themselves honest, and slash the stakeholders who are not doing their job properly. So in my white paper, the next version of white paper, I explain how to resist 33% attack, why other data availability layers cannot resist 33% attack, but our design can. And there will be lots of great technical innovations in the next version of the white paper. I'm not sure which version of the white paper you have, or maybe it's already there, but if there, it may not be there. So,
Yeah, this looks like it's the very first version.
oh no, the first version is terrible. I mean, it was thrown together very quickly.
I mean,
I find it terrible. It still has lots of good stuff in it, but
yeah,
I
it
think
seems
it's
very
terrible.
thorough. It seems very
Yes.
thorough, to say the least.
I will have an even better version, even more thorough. Be prepared to be bored by how thorough the next version will be. Sorry, but yes.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Again, I think the more information, the better. I'll leave the link to not only your website down below, but also to this version of the white paper. Ladies and gentlemen, do
Okay.
keep in mind that Farai and the team are working on an updated version. So definitely make
Okay.
sure to check back in to review that. Farai, I think this has been a really great introduction into what Sky Protocol is doing and sort of what you guys aim to bring here to Cardano in terms of options for scaling solutions, which again, it seems like the data availability layer would be functional with ZK rollups, optimistic rollups. I got one other question. Would it also work with something, for example, like state channels in Hydra?
Oh, yes and no. In that we want actually to use state channels to help you pay for fees when using the data availability layer. And state channels are great technology. I've worked on state channels in the past. I love them. They are separate and complementary with side chains. I like to present that as state channels are the perfect technology for what I call closed interactions. Interactions where a small fixed number of people who participate. And the way you can think of it is a state channel is basically a side chain with a small fixed committee that works by unanimity, and it just works. But if you have an open interaction where many people can join and leave at any moment, if you have an exchange, if you have some kind of auction or something like that, you want an open interaction, and for that you cannot do that on a state channel. For that you need a side chain. And so the data availability layer is a solution for side chains. It works great. It can complement other things that you do with state channels, but it is separate. State channels are the thing if you have a close interaction, and side chains are the thing you have an open interaction.
Got it. Thank you for drawing that distinction. As we get ready to wind things down here, we are getting close to that 30-minute mark. I'd love to maybe hear about anything that you think is of importance that we maybe didn't touch on today, or that you maybe just want to highlight to the community.
Well, apart from the fact that I will have the next version of the white paper later this week or next week, we are launching the pre-sale of the token this summer. So watch out, and if you're ready to fund the thing and take risks, it's a good time to invest in a great solution for scaling blockchain in general, and beyond just the scaling, writing decentralized applications in a more modular way. I think that's the way to see it, to look at it.
Perfectly and well said. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we have Farai here, the founder of the Sky Protocol, a universal layer 2 solution for blockchain scalability, which what I personally love is what you mentioned earlier, the fact that any other layer 2 can basically take advantage and publish their transaction data directly to the data availability layer. If you guys want to find out more about the Sky Protocol, I'll leave the official links to it down below. Farai, I want to thank you very much here for your time. Wishing you the best with your upcoming token sale and just the introduction right to the Sky Protocol within the greater Cardano community. Right now, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of chatter surrounding layer 2 and scaling solutions. So I think you guys are coming in at just the right time, especially as IOG is beginning to focus on that more and more with the expected launch and closing of governance you're building on Cardano. For you, the ladies and gentlemen watching at home, if you guys enjoyed today's content, if you learned anything along the way as it pertains to scaling and layer 2 solutions, I would appreciate you if you could smash that thumbs up. If it's your first time stopping by and you want more content like this, covering all the projects building in Cardano, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any questions for myself or Farai surrounding the Sky Protocol and how it actually plans to work, then make sure to leave a comment down below. That said, and as always, we'll see you guys in the next video.